could literally see the dollars rolling into the tank.
Alright, so we just got done raking. We're getting the baler ready now.
So this one we'll be watching. I might have to put the 2 in, because I think that last field we'll bale more with this one.
Yeah, so this is our older baler. It can't hold as many twine balls as the other one can. It's a New Holland 273.
Well, yeah, this one I actually like baling with. It's easy to get around with, except when you really get in that steep stuff, you get pushed around is what happens. You just not able to put as big a load on. You got to be a little strategic, or you bale the steep stuff with the empty wagon and finish filling it up where it's not so steep. These are quite the heydays we got right now. This reminds me when back in the 80s when it just seemed like it never ended. Dad would start cutting and we'd be going for 10 days straight. And Dad had 2 balers just like this. One didn't have the super sweep, which means the pickup had the wider teeth. It was kind of the early models. But then he picked up another one just like this with the super sweep, and it's kind of more for, I think the alfalfa was getting so fine. People were baling younger hay, trying to get all the leaves. Otherwise, we're baling mostly grass hay today. This is going to be more of a heifer dry cow hay. It's the kind of stuff that dries easy. What are we today? What's the date today? June?
Is it June 19th or 20th? It's actually Father's Day today.
19th today, yeah, Father's Day, and Father gets to bale a pile of hay with some boys. That makes it a good day. Typically, we wouldn't really get any decent dry hay until, what, 20th, 25th? One year it was the 4th of July before we baled anything. And there was no way you were gonna bale anything dry before then, but as long as you get it without rain, as far as the dry cows and heifers are concerned, that's still a little more mature, and then it keeps. But I think what we got out there now is kind of right on target, as far as I'm concerned, for a good dry heifer hay.
Yeah, you get more tonnage that way. Your protein might not be super high when it comes to your alfalfas, but you get more out of your fields.
Well, that's just it. And
fills them up more.
These fields are so steep that what we're doing today, that's going to be grazed until late October. We'll be moving electric fences and stuff in there.
Yeah, so we might as well let it grow a bit.
We let it grow out more and get one good crop off it, and efficiencies. I think a lot of guys are starting to think about that, running after 4 crops versus 3 with the prices of fuel equipment and some.
Yeah, I know some of the bigger guys are doing that low lignin, I think it is, where you have less fiber and you can leave it out there longer, and
where it won't mature up so quick.
So then, yeah, then they don't have to go out there so many times and still get a higher protein.
Yeah, they're changing a lot of that, but that works good when you start chopping.
All right, start greasing. Mason, he's been helping bale and cut hay for the past couple days.
He's my operator. He's pretty well got all these crooked fields figured out, which way Dad needs them cut so we can follow it decent with the rakes and balers. You were running the old baler yesterday. What'd you think of that?
It's a lot lighter than the big one, for sure. I actually like it more than the bigger one. You almost can put it exactly where you want it. This thing, you're messing with the dials half the time just to like think, oh, Bale might go here. This thing, you just crank this little wheel thing we got back here half a turn and puts you exactly where you want it.
Mason likes the old school setup a lot more.
So you're saying old is better than young?
Oh no, I think nowadays they're just overthinking things, and I don't know, I think this is the Cadillac.
It's just like you said, a lighter baler, and then when the bigger difference between these two is when you get like a place where it's doubled up, where you might have turned it to rake around or big slug, you really got to be careful how that drags that into there. You might have to almost come to a stop and then inch your way into it. Where this thing, it'll gobble it up, 3 or 4 flakes, it'll make you a bale. That thing, you gotta let that plunger go a few strokes, otherwise you shear a pin. But yeah, I'm the same. I'm just like him. With second crop, I like, you know, when the hay's finer, I think this will make a better bale.
Yeah, you can't run as fast. You can't put as much through there. But...
well, when the hay isn't as heavy, it doesn't really make much difference. It's way more efficient to run this tractor than those any day when you start thinking about it. But again, in the hills getting pushed around, the framing ain't as heavy. Now, the one thing on this baler, if I had my way, like in here, we put an extra piece of iron in here to help support the pole. Because one day I lost this pole, it was quite a few years ago, and I just unhooked a full load on a really steep, you know, after I got done baling on a really steep, I unhooked it along the bottom, hooked up an empty wagon. I went up the hill, I had 4 bales on it, and then it let go. And luckily enough, the wagon rolled down the hill, maybe about 500 feet, and then turned real nice into the valley. You could never plan that. That thing would have been upside down in a pond or something. So that's reinforced, but being our hills are so steep, I'd like to see a tandem, you know, walking tandem like our choppers got. Way more support to keep this thing from sliding and bouncing around as much. But the only way we're gonna get that if we do it ourselves, because I don't believe anybody's gonna. But they still make these balers. I think all the mechanics of it are exactly the same. I think the only thing different is some of the shielding and the stickers, and I think it's the same thrower yet they offer, and that tells us something that they're still doing what they're supposed to do.
All right, so that's a little bit about both of our balers. The one's a 273, this one's a 575, both New Hollands. And they've been working well for us. So we're gonna grease them up, get them ready to go for this afternoon.
Well, actually, you got one right there. More.
So here's one of the tools we wanted to show you. And we're not gonna tell you what it is yet. We want some of you to guess in the comments, what do you think that was used for? So that tool we were talking about and that raking video, here it is again. And we were reading the comments. A lot of you had good guesses. A few of you might have got it right. But here it is.
So this is a wagon chute. And when I was a boy, all we had is those M's, and I think the biggest tractor we had when I was young was a 656. But we go down on them hills, see. So what they would do, and the tires are a little smaller on some of those bale racks, but put a log chain through here, and then you might find a place on the wagon where you can fish it through or tie it to something. It's just so it keeps it under the wheel, so that the wheel is like sliding down the hill. It just gives you some sort of resistance so that you don't get pushed. And it worked pretty good. I mean, we use this all the time. And the reason I remember it so well, because my grandpa always had us boys crawling underneath the wagon to do this. He just stayed up on the tractor seat, and then he'd pull ahead and make sure it was adjusted right before he went down the hill. Then we'd walk down, and then we'd always hang it right here. See, that's one of the cranks. We'd always hang it there, and then the log chain was always with it. I mean, and then when we would ride, like we'd ride a tractor like this when I was a boy, you'd hold on here and here. You'd stand on top of the axle. You got a little older, you were standing in here and just kind of holding on. And I remember my dad, many times, he'd put his hand over my hand, like if we were gonna go through some rough spots or something, so we made sure we didn't fall off or something. But it's a real simple thing. You could rig stuff up like this today. And so if you're going down where there's not dirt or gravel, when it's just like they cut a cut hayfield where it's just grass like this, it's worse than on the dirt. You will slide. It'll make almost like a grease, and it'll slide all the way to the bottom. That kind of cleans your arteries out a little bit, but you get used to that afterwards. But
Gets your blood flowing. So yeah, thank you all for your guesses on what that tool was. We really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll find something else neat to show you guys. Hopefully you guys learned something if you didn't know what that was.